Labor leader Andrew Little is on the phone. You've been listening to that. Andrew, are you there?
I am here. Good afternoon.
Nice to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of that? What do you make of what those supermarket shelf stackers were saying?
Yeah, John, let's be honest about this. You didn't, or your reporter didn't talk to supermarket shelf stackers. He talked to an assistant manager who was a shelf stacker 5 years ago.
Exactly, but isn't that the point?
Shelf stacker some 4 years ago.
Yeah, but they both started as supermarket shelf stackers, right?
Yeah, that's right, and good on them. And look, and of course they're doing fantastic stuff. And the supermarket owner himself talked about that, and even he said, look, you know, he starts with whānau first or Kiwis first, and good on him for doing that. You see, the thing that's changed since they came here and were shelf stackers is that we've had a quadrupling of the numbers of people coming here to settle here on work visas and student visas and all the rest of it, into cities where we're struggling with the number of houses to accommodate people, where we have traffic congestion, where we have overcrowded schools. So something has changed, which is why I've said, right now, given the current circumstances, we have to take a breather. We've got to slow it down. When I look at the other side of it, which is the fact that we've got 90,000 young people not in work educational training, over 30,000 of them in Auckland alone, I have a moral duty as a political leader to make sure we are doing everything we can to get those people who are already living here a chance and an opportunity to get in the job market and do something.
I don't think anyone would dispute that you have a moral duty, and I'm sure Bill English would say exactly the same thing. The issue is around how you address, fulfil, make that moral duty flesh or practicality or reality, and is picking on immigrants. I mean, Jason Witihira says unequivocally every time he advertises for jobs, he gets way more immigrants, new immigrants applying than he does from that 90,000 young people that you're talking about, 30,000 of whom in New Zealand. And the issue is what? A lack of confidence, a lack of self-belief, a lack of connection, a lack of possibility, a lack of hope. How do you inspire the youngsters you are talking about to want those jobs, to go for those jobs, to feel those jobs are rewarding, meaningful, worth doing?
Yeah, look, I'll come to that. I just want to make you said the point about why pick on immigrants. No one is picking on immigrants. We have an issue at the moment with cities that are kind of bursting at the seams because we just don't have enough houses, because we have a government that hasn't invested in the infrastructure needed for that, and we've just got to take a moment, just kind of slow it down and take a breather. Here's the issue about a lot of those young people. A lot of them have been out of work for a lengthy period of time, and I've spoken to other employers who've said, look, I want to really employ young New Zealanders, but we get them from Wednesday. They've been out of work for 7 or 8 or 9 months, and they last a couple of days or 3 days, and then we don't hear from them.
And that's Jason Witihira's point, isn't it?
Yeah,
and this is complex, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And look, and Jason may well have the same point, but these farmers and orchardists who spoke to me last year had the point. They said, could you just work with them, give them a period of time to get them ready for work, which is why we have our Ready to Work policy, which is about going after those young people who've been out of work for more than 6 months, giving them something to do, working with DOC, working with a regional council, working with somebody else, doing community stuff, getting them in the habit of turning up to work at the beginning of the day, doing something constructive. If there's things like they don't have a driver's license that's holding them back, work with them to get their driver's license. If there's some other sort of short course that they can do that's going to give them an extra skill and make them more competitive in the labour market, we'll do that too. But this is about getting into the habits, restoring self-esteem, motivation, and all those things.
All of that stuff. All of that stuff. Now, you announced your immigration policy in June. In May, you wrote a really interesting op-ed for the New Zealand Herald, and you said, when 139,000 Kiwis are unemployed, we should be focusing on getting them into these jobs. Now, how do you do that? Is your only response that there's a small amount of job preparation and also just excluding immigrants so that in fact employers have no option but to employ Kiwis? What are the nuances around making this work?
Well, that ready-to-work policy is absolutely fundamental to it, because, as I say, I go to the employers I've spoken to, and I was in Blenheim the other day, and I had employers in the hospitality sector telling me about, the way that their workforces, and they get skilled chefs from overseas, and that's all good. And we've always said we want an immigration policy that has always done what it has always needed in New Zealand, which is to match genuine skill shortages with, getting people from overseas.
Well, what's saying?
We've always done.
Sorry to interrupt.
What we're doing right now.
No, I just want to pick up on genuine skill shortages. What say the genuine skill shortages are perversely and inexplicably and in a very complex way low-skilled jobs? In other words, that is a disenfranchised, disconnected labour force. And also it's a labour force who are asking predominantly to do minimum wage work in a profoundly difficult city to live on the minimum wage in, Auckland.
Sure, but we have people working on the minimum wage in Auckland, and we have over 30,000 young people right now in Auckland not doing anything at all. And so I just go back to what I regard as my moral duty, and that is doing what I need to do, and if I have the privilege of forming a government, and government doing what we need to do to make sure they get a chance and an opportunity to get their foot on the bottom of that ladder to get into work, get into the labour market and do stuff. And yep, there will be all sorts of things around. Can they get there? Do they have to travel long distances and all those sorts of things? But I am confident that if we work with those young people, give them the chance to kind of rebuild or regain their confidence, get into those habits of work. If there's other underlying issues we've got to deal with, let's deal with that. But it is not good in the long run for New Zealand to have 90,000 young people who we kind of turn our back on, and we've got at least one politician who describes them as pretty damn hopeless. That's not acceptable to me, and I want to make sure we have a government that is doing everything it can to get those people into work and having the opportunity to work and stand on their own 2 feet.
Andrew Little, Leader of the Labour Party, thank you.